Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Well, it's a bit of a surprise how many people are nearly all my age here. And you shouldn't be, because I'm only 93, but that's a good thing to start on. Now, I was hoping Jeff Benson would be here today, because Jeff did a marvellous job for the car club, and that is his history that he wrote for the 21st birthday. And Jeff did a marvellous job that tells you all about you old blokes. And it does really good, and it's something we should be proud of. But Jeff also did this one too. Yeah, I'm throwing her away.
Oh,
He also wrote that book,
Maybe I should go.
which he did for the 50th anniversary. And I think he deserves a good clap if he was here for that one. And look at the size of it. And Jeff did a magnificent job for it. But I'd like to tell you some stories about the car club.
Yeah.
A lot of you won't know because you weren't there. But
You don't tell the truth.
I've got her book here. Just have a good look. And it says it is the official 50 race history of the Australian Grand Prix. Now that includes several races on that road out just outside, but it gives all the details, or so-called details, of the first event here. Now, I'm just going to read you a little bit here, because this is where it's going. And it says, and I'm going to read it quite clearly, and I'll read it to you a couple of times, so you hear it. Make sure. And what it says is, the first Australian Grand Prix, Phillip Island, Victoria, March 26, 1928. And it was 16 laps, 105 miles. And it was won by a bloke called A. Waite in an Austin 7. Now don't forget, it was a handicap race. But Arthur Waite did compete, and according to this book, and it says it is the official history of the Australian Grand Prix, and it says he won it in 1928. That was very good. But I also saw it in it that it had the 10th Australian Grand Prix. And I thought, the 10th Australian Grand Prix was at Bathurst, out on that road before it was tarred, and was won by Peter Whitehead, driving on a RA. And I also saw that it had one of the entries in it was in Auburn. Now, Norman Auburn was one of the two Auburn brothers. He and Reg ran the Ford agency down in William Street way back in the early days. But I noticed also, didn't say anything about Norman Auburn driving in the race. Then I found George Reed. Now George was a member of this club and one of our very, very active members too, may I say. And you might like to go down in the corner there and you'll see the George Reed corner. But George was in that race, and in those days they had a driving mechanic with them. And that was nearly all the competitors had two in the car. But anyway, I also looked at the 10th Australian Grand Prix. And what I found in it amazed me. Because here I found a photograph of Ray Mansell. Now Ray was one of our earliest members and one of our most successful members too. And Ray was there, and I looked at other places, and I found out quite a bit about George Reed, and I came to a picture, and it tells me it is of Peter Whitehead's car, and it shows a little boy sitting in it, and it says his name is Johnny Lindsay. Where is he? There he is. He was sitting in the racing car that won the 10th Australian Grand Prix. And I was happy to have a good look at that. And it was won by Peter Whitehead with Les Burrows second in a terraplane. Well, it's a long time since terraplanes have been racing in the Australian Grand Prix. And there's something else I'd like to tell, or two things I'd like to tell you about. For some reason, back in those days, they never numbered a car 13. They must have been very superstitious. But for nearly all the early races, there was no car numbered 13. And that also surprised me. But in this race, there were several protests about it. Some people reckon Whitehead didn't win it. He hadn't done the right number of laps. Anyway, they had a rather cute idea of how to measure people's laps. And they had each crew had an exercise bit. And as the car went past, they would just tear the page out and throw it away. Very smart idea, yes. But at the end of it, it hadn't worked. And this was something that they put on. And no, it didn't work. But anyway, they did sort it out, and Peter Whitehead was given the thing. And they had the presentation of prizes in the Walsall Hall in Bathurst here for the 10th Grand Prix. Now, I'd like to go back a bit in history. I believe that what it said in this book was 100% right. That the Australian Grand Prix, the first one, had been won by this bloke Arthur Waite, driving an Austin 7, supercharged of course, and I found out a bit more. This bloke was joined the army at World War I, mind you, and he went to Gallipoli and France, and he got awarded the Military Cross. He went back to England, and in 1918, that's a long while, he got married. But who did he get married to? This is the amazing part of the story. He got married to Sir Herbert's daughter, Herbert Austin's eldest daughter. He had married the inventor of the baby Austin. Something is hard to believe, but he did. Anyway, my daughter wanted to go to Goulburn one day, so I offered to go with her for company. So we went down from Springwood to Goulburn, and we were walking along the main street, and a lady in front of the shop passed this piece of paper out to me. I thought it was probably just something for sale in the shop. Certainly not, but I didn't realise it wasn't. I nearly threw it in the garbage bin, but I didn't. I started to read it. Now, just before I read it, a lot of you people will remember that I was a bit of an old cars crankman. I owned a Lancia at one stage, and I even competed in the Lancia in some of our events. And on this, it says, on the 13th of January, a display in Montesquieu Street of vintage and historic racing cars, sports cars and motorcycles will be held, and an invitation for entrants and spectators to drift in the 1920s era, and the open air theatre in the park at night is going to be for free admission. But I read the rest of the brochure, and it said, GEAR, which stands for Goulburn Auto Racing Group, I think it is, celebrates and invites historic racing car and motorcycle to join them at the 85th anniversary of the first Australian Grand Prix held in Goulburn on the 15th of January 1927. That is earlier than the one I just read you about Arthur White winning at Phillip Island. And I thought to myself, someone's got it wrong. This one says it was held in Goulburn on the 15th of January 27, and the one that Arthur White said was on the 26th of March 1928. Somebody has it wrong. Now, we gave a lot of information to Jeff Benson. Was it right or was it wrong? Now, Jeff Benson did get a lot of information from the newspapers, from the different people who wrote the blower, and so on. Did they give him all the right information or not? We don't know. If anyone here now can tell us anything that we should have known, we'd love them to let us know, so that a wrong can be righted. And I'd ask you, I know I've been trying to talk to most of you tonight, but some of you may know something we don't, or we haven't got in one of these books. And it's amazing what comes out when we don't know. I'm going to go right back to the first day in history. I was at the first get-together that we had in George Street in Bathurst on the 6th of February 1953. The other member is Johnny Waters, who is sitting somewhere around here. And John was there with his TCMG, which he did compete in many events in our early days. Another one was John Hillier. John Hillier was a night watchman, so he had plenty of spare time in the daytime hours to get around and see most of the members, tell them what was going on, etc. Another one of the people was Max Rawlings. Max was a baker, and he also had a fair bit of spare time. But he didn't have a car either, neither did Johnny Hillier. And one of the others was Ted Hilder. Ted Hilder used to be an apprentice motor mechanic at Gurdon Motors. But he didn't have a car that was going either. And we finished up with only 4 people that had cars that were mobile. One was Johnny Waters, who is here somewhere. Oh, there he is, down there. Okay. Another was Keith Martin. Now, Keith Martin was a reporter on the Western Times. And we thought, oh, he can publicise the car club as much as we can get to him. And this information will all be coming out in the newspaper. And we thought that would be a real good thing. Now, another member who joined that night was Alan Hesbeck. Now, Alan unfortunately didn't stay very long with the car club. And the other person who was there was me. So that's when I first got involved on the 6th of February. I'm in the footpath outside 2BS in George Street, Bathurst. Anyway, we reckon that wasn't a fair meeting because we never appointed a president or a secretary or anyone. So we met again the next week on the 12th of February 1953, and we formed a club. Now this big club had Bill Chadwick as president, John Hillier as secretary, Max Rowling as treasurer, and the committee consisted of me, Johnny Waters from just over there, and Alan Hesbeck. But we had another person who worked on the National Advocate, and that was Mike Cable. So we had Mike Cable who worked on the National Advocate, Keith Martin who worked on the Western Times. We thought they will get us all the publicity we could ever get. And we had 4 others, Dennis Kenny, Alan Dowse and Ivan Wilson. Now that meeting was held out in the workshop at Gurdon Motors when they were in Howard Street in Bathurst. Now our first actual function at the car club held, which was organised by John Hillier, was the film night. Now, it was organised by Alec Hargens, and it was at Alec Hargens' place. Now, some of you will probably remember Alec Hargens. But Alec Hargens ran a very successful engine rebuilding shop down in George Street, opposite the park. And the second one was run by Wal Redding, and we got films donated to us for that, which was in the back of his shop in Peel Street, from Champion Sparkplug. Now, in those days, a lot of the oil companies and car companies and so on loaned out films to organisations like us, and some of them were Shell, Castrol, Pratt, BP, etc. Frank Blomfield, who used to own the chemist shop, he had lots of films taken, because he had taken on Mt Panorama here of various races, and his films were very interesting. At any rate, and after we got going a bit in this club room, we often got the films from these places that I've just named, but one of them we had that office turned into a projection room, and we used to show all these films we got from all these car companies. And at one stage, we were getting a great deal of number of films from the Red X trial that was running around Australia. Now, they showed us all sorts of things. We saw the winners and place getters in the first trial. We saw them in the second trial and the third trial. And we also had round Australian films run by SO and so on, things. But we didn't get a whole lot of them later, but we did get some that we projected on our own projector in this hall, and we got several others that we just got ourselves. Now, if you look up this book here, it tells you the first event that we actually run was in 1953. I can't get it right. On the 11th of April 1953, we ran a car trial. 15 competitors there. Didn't go that far, about 80 kilometres, or 80 miles I think it should have been. And I'm just going to give you the details of the people who were in it and the people who did well in it. The winner, with no points lost, he was the only one that didn't lose any points, was Robin Cheetham. Robin lived at Burrigo, but was one of our earliest members. The next one was Jimmy O'Brien, MGTC. The third one was a Holden. And the fourth one was Cam Ashelford. That's what it says here. But I reckon it's wrong. Because I reckon I ran second. Because I only lost 1 point on the road. I didn't do so good on changing the tyre, but I was one of the ones that got there with 1 point only. But from then on, we had other people compete. A lot of them aren't around now. But the fifth one was Ross Bird. Next was Huey Brown. Huey Brown, many of you will remember, was the second president of this club. And Huey was the president for about 3 years. Huey drove a Rover 75. Others were Alec Bedwell in a Jaguar Mark 7. Yeah. Then Owen McLeod, he drove an Austin A40 Ute. Okay. Then came one of the MGs with Bruce Spillane, Dennis Kenny. Well, Dennis, you drove a car which was a family car and which you probably won't never even heard of. But it was a Rio and the model was a Flying Cloud and he came in 8th place. Keith Garland drove a Singer. Alan Dowse was another one of our MG blokes. Alec Cronin drove a Fiat 500. Frank Caldecott, who owned the Renault service station in Bath, wasn't it? And Roy Webster in a Peugeot 203 wound up the thing. That was the first event we actually ran, and it started in Church Street, just near the Carillon, went for 80 kilometres up Blaney, Kalula, Rockley, and back to Bathurst, to the same place we started from, and then it finished up in the Royal Hotel, where the licensee was Benny Bernard, who was already been elected as the patron of the club, and he was letting us use the ballroom in the Royal Hotel as a meeting place. And things were going well. But we got to the end of the year, or almost to the end of the year, and Bill Chadwick came and saw me one day, and he asked me would I be the secretary till the end of the year, which was in February. I reluctantly said yes, and he said, now that you've said yes to that, will you, if I nominate you for secretary for next year, will you stand? So I said, okay. So many, many years later, I stopped being secretary. But I was secretary for some years, which gave me an insight into most things that were going on in the club. At any rate, John Hillier did get prizes donated to him. He got a first, second and third prize donated to him by Eric Sargent from Bathurst Motors, and one for the quickest wheel change came from Alderman Percy Moody, who had been a member of the Bathurst clubs in the very early days, the clubs that had existed. Now, Jeff Benson also has a bit in his book that tells us about several of the clubs that existed in the Bathurst from the very early stages. There were motorbike clubs existing in Bathurst from in the 20s. There was car clubs existing in Bathurst from the 30s. And one of them was Norman Orban. Now, as I said earlier, he was the brother of Reg, who became our patron, but he spent most of his time helping clubs run, but they also, in those days, around from town to town racing was all the thing for the cars. And they had from Sydney to Perth, Sydney to Melbourne. They even had one run from Perth to Sydney and so on. But Norman Orban set the record from Sydney, through Bathurst to Perth. I'll just read you some of the figures. I'll surprise you. Of course, I can't find it. Yes, Norman Orban went from Sydney to Perth, 512 miles, in her old A model Ford in 1929 at 47.4 miles per hour. And that was thought to be pretty fantastic. And if he hadn't broken down for a couple of hours, it would have been so much better. But when I was looking at things, I saw a Les Taylor drove from Darwin to Alice Springs in 1951, 954 miles, almost double, at 96.2 miles per hour in a Jaguar SK 120. The run by Norman Orban was quite well publicised, and the speed and all that he did was within the records books. By this 1951, the run by Les Taylor was kept secret, and the Lord didn't want to know about it. And he nearly got it caught, but he got away with it. So things have changed. Now, 1953, with all those things, was a very busy year, big year for motoring. And as it happened, the first thing we learned was the motor racing at Bathurst was cancelled. There were to be no motor races here at Easter, but they were going to have motor races at Orange at Easter. And the mayor called a special meeting in Bathurst, and he told the meeting that unless the business people of Bathurst were prepared to support motor racing on this circuit, nothing more would be done here. And I think this shocked a whole lot of people. And you're right, one person stood up, and that was Theo Bernardis. Now possibly a lot of you remember Theo. Theo with his brother George ran Heath's Cafe. And what Theo said shocked a lot of people. And I'll tell you what he said. I have never been to the races, motorcycle or car races. But he said, I know that Mt Panorama is worth thousands of pounds of money circulating in Bathurst. And almost instantaneously, a committee to run the financial side of Mt Panorama was elected. And the chairman was Bill Chadwick was the head of the workshop at Gurdon Motors. The secretary was Barry Gurdon from Gurdon Motors. The open artist, Harold Bedwell. Harold Bedwell was with Bedwell's Tyre Service with his brother Alec and father George. Bruce Stevenson was a solicitor with Macintosh McFarlane. Lionel Hawkins worked with Gordon Edgels. And Jack Wiley owned Jack Wiley's motorcycle business in Howard Street. Now, they didn't know what they were letting themselves in for, so the mayor outlined the expenses. And the first thing he said was that we have had 2 race meetings in a row that were not very successful. And we did not get anywhere near the income that we needed. The big costs were building a control tower, which was built out of sticks of wood and a hessian. That was all right. The next one was the tower up the top here. That caused another problem too. And the biggest cost was in the sweeping of the road at night. And because it had to be done at night, on holiday weekends, it had to be all done at double rates for the thing. And that caused a problem. It caused a big problem to the Mt Panorama Motor Racing Committee as it became known. But not only did they find out that on those occasions, the club running the car races here, they also had a bad truck with the weather, and they didn't make any money out of it. So it wasn't all their problem or all their fault. And the mayor outlined the only thing that the council had got income from was sixpence. Now, I don't know if you know how much sixpence is, but it's 5 cents, I think, per head for each spectator. A small amount for selling food rights at the various stalls and for the beer booths around the circuit. And that didn't bring in a lot of money on this couple. At any rate, the Mt Panorama Motor Racing Committee got worked hard. The open artist put his mouth where his money was, and he went round to most of the businesses in Bathurst and asked them to give him an interest-free loan of £200. And £200 was a lot of money in those days. But £200 interest to be paid back when and if they were able to do it. He gave no guarantees. And that started the thing off in a big way. And this is what made Mt Panorama what it is today. He got enough money to build a control tower. Now, Doug Trevor Jones, the architect, came good and designed us a control tower and did a very good job for it. And his son Jerry is somewhere round here today, and we started off, oh, I could be. Okay, Jerry, his father got to it, and they built. Now, just after that, Benny Bernard, who was the licensee of the Royal Hotel, his term finished and he left Bathurst, and we didn't have anywhere to meet. And just as it happened at that same time, Bathurst City Council allowed us to use the control tower down at the in Pitt Street as a Clubrooms. And we did, and we used that for several years. It wasn't real suitable because it was designed as a control tower for running the races. It had one floor specifically for timekeepers, lap scorers, and a top floor for announcers and so on. But we got on reasonably all right. But we had a few people who came up with an idea. They said, why don't you get the Mt Panorama Committee to build a grandstand, and you might be able to sell the rights to it in it so that we could get money from it, and we had underneath the grandstand we were going to build a clubroom. At any rate, we weren't successful in selling the rights. We thought we were at one stage. Anyway, we found out a bit later, well, that wasn't all the jobs that had to be done. All the PA and telephone lines were old military rolled up on drums, and they had to be telephones rolled out to approximately 16 miles of wire had to be rolled out around the circuit, which took a terrible amount of time. And we had two other things. The council tar sealed the circuit after that first race, and they used to use the money from the sixpence per head to pay that, but they had to clean up around the circuit after each meeting because there was rubbish everywhere. Council said they had no solution to that. They just had to get some of their workers to clean it up. But Lionel Hawkins from the Mt Panorama Motor Racing Committee, he organised some 44-gallon drums, got them painted up, put them all around the circuit with garbage and so on, and from then on we had virtually no garbage worry to clean up. All things council could have done but hadn't done. Anyway, the day after this meeting, they had two people arrived in Bathurst from the ARDC, that's the Australian Racing Drivers Club, to see the mayor, to see if the council would let them conduct races in Bathurst. It looked like we weren't being closed down, no one here to run a meeting. We had a club who were ready to run the races which had been virtually cancelled. And they did it for another 25 years or so. But they were only running races down at Mount Druitt. Now, Mount Druitt's circuit was an old Army or Air Force base with a runway and a few other roads stuck to it. And they didn't have any people in their club who did all of these jobs that had to be done around the circuit. So the next thing that happened, the Bathurst Light Car Club was asked, would anyone be prepared to go on the telephones around the course and be prepared to do that at the race meetings instead of people coming up from Sydney to do it. Well, I nearly got killed in the rush by volunteers. And we did have all the people we wanted within seconds. So then we mentioned about the sweeping the circuit. Now, what happened is, all around the circuit, the council had put granite, and wherever anyone drove into their place or out, they carried the granite out onto the circuit, and had a very slippery bit in front of them. But the council had an old horse-drawn broom that they used to sweep when they tarred anywhere, and it was to be used to clean the circuit of that, and everywhere where there was an on-road coming onto the circuit, it got the same, so it had to be done at night. And we asked the members, would anyone like to help us with cleaning the circuit? And we nearly got killed in the rush. Everyone wanted to do this. Anyway, those were probably two of the dearest costs that applied to Mt Panorama. But the car club did them all, and the car club became the workhorse for the Mt Panorama Motor Racing Committee. Now, I suppose many of you have driven up the roadway that goes from the rifle range up to Reed Park. That was done by the car club. We carted a whole lot of granite from the brickworks and built a bank along the spectator area down in the park down at the bottom. And that was built up by car club members. And so on and so on and so on, till we had virtually no cost to be going to put on events at Mt Panorama. And the car club can be proud of doing nearly all the handwork to get it going, which was very, very good for the racing and very good for Bathurst. Now, luckily, with the sixpence per head, we had a few very good race meetings, and the money came in quite well, and we were able to seal all the roads around the circuit, which had been in fact built as a tourist road. Now, this was during the Depression of the late 1930s, early 30s. And council got a grant to build the road from over near Reed Park up to about here on Conrod Straight, which meant that for 29,000 we had Australia's first purpose-built racing circuit ever built. And this was due mainly to the Bathurst Light Car Club. Now, I've got another little bit to tell you. Jeff Benson also in his book. Somewhere. In Bathurst, there was a car club formed in 1939, just before war broke out, which sort of went into non-existence when the war came on, which was known as the Light Car Club of Bathurst, not the Bathurst Light Car Club. And I'll just read you this little bit. And it says, in August 1938, the Light Car Club of Bathurst held a half-yearly meeting and elected Trevor Evans as president. A lot of you might have known of Trevor. Trevor was one of our really active members in our club here and was club champion very early in the piece. And they formed, had a secretary who was named Byron, who we did not have any connection with. But the treasurer was Ray Mansell, who was another very active of this member of this car club, was treasurer. Right? That sounded good. It sounded we had a pretty good president and treasurer who were members of this car club. But they joined up with the Chamber of Commerce to put on a race meeting here. And the suggestion was made that perhaps Mt Panorama could be used as a venue for a Grand Prix event for cars such as an had yet to be staged in Australia. We could do it at Mt Panorama, and Mt Panorama seemed to be eminently suitable. Now, I have given you details about 2 Australian Grand Prix that were run in Australia. 2 first ones. Someone had to give us a wrong steer. Someone had to be wrong. You can't have 2 firsts, can you? And then another suggestion. Have another one and call it the first. So we had 3. Golly. Has this got any facts in it that are right? Or has it got facts that are dead right? And that is the history of this club. Something we've got to remember. If you can think of anything that happened in the car club, we would love to hear from it. It's all there in black and white. Everything is right. Now, I'll just go back. To this book. And as I said, it said A White in an Austin 7 won it. He might have been the father-in-law of the man who built the Baby Austin. And no doubt many of you have seen a Baby Austin. And in 1954, which was just after we had started the club, we had a trial. Now, Barry Gurdon was a local Austin dealer in Bathurst, and he said, got up at one meeting and said, we should put on a trial to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Baby Austin. And it went down like a lead balloon. At the next meeting, he brought it up again. This time he added a bit. And it was that the Austin dealers of New South Wales would donate the money for prizes. Now the prizes were to be, for the first place, get 2 cars, 2 motor cars. The equivalent of a Baby Austin in those days was an Austin A30. Now most of the people now would know what an Austin 30 was like. And people took that on. Every prize was in duplicate, which meant this had never been done as far as we could find in anywhere else in the world, in any motoring event. So we started this to have this trial. There were a couple of things against it. One of the Round Australia trials was in the course of circulating Australia, which probably had a bad effect on a lot of our entries, but we did get 136 entries. We got 128 entries when entries closed. We got the rest as late entries. And it looked like we were going to have a very, very, very event. But every vehicle had to be under 1,000 cc's. As the Baby Austins were, they were 748 cc. We had to be under 1,000 cc's, and it was going to be 1,000 miles. And we got very good publicity in all the papers and most of the national papers. We found out that several of the entries that we got didn't have a car nominated in them. Why, we didn't know. We tried to chase up a couple of them. They said, yeah, we're trying to buy one. We want to buy one and go in your trial. Anyway, the Sydney Sun, which was an evening paper, they were very conscious of our event and did contact us quite regularly and ask us how we were going. And they got some of their people to check all car yards from Sydney out to Parramatta to see how many small cars were on their car lots. They came back, there wasn't a car left on that car lot for sale. And they said, you won't get any more entries because there's none for sale. Anyway, we got them, and we decided to have a special draw one night at the City Theatre, as it was in those days. And we had all these numbers, which we had them in a bin, and we were to draw them out to be for the cars to compete in their order. Anyway, we got the local police inspector to inspect them all and check that they were all there, all the numbers in the car. We took them down and we took them in the theatre, we put them in the theatre at the intermission, and we had the draw. Now, we had borrowed a drum barrel from the RSL club and put all the numbers in there, and Barry Gurdon went over to spun the drum. There was only one thing wrong. He forgot to lock the barrel. And numbers came out everywhere, all over the stage, over the first 3 or 4 rows in the aisles in the pictures theatre. Well, there was about 6 or 7 of us up on the stage, crawling around. People in the audience were looking for the numbers. We shoved them all in. Bill Hall blocked it, made sure it was right. And then Barry spun it, and we got out, and whose number should come out first but mine. I came out number 1, didn't it? Anyway, that was all right. But we went on, and it wasn't long, and the event was started at 10 o'clock on Friday night, down in front of Gurdon Motors, and there was a crowd in Howard Street. Now, I mean a Howard crowd in Howard Street. We went off car number 1. I poured the champagne over us, and I don't know whether you've ever poured champagne over a windscreen, but it does dry off a bit, and it dries off very sticky. And we had to go out to near Rockley, and the road wasn't tarred, and we got all the dust stuck to our windscreen. So we couldn't see where we were going, and 4 or 5 of the other cars passed us. So we had a very quick trip down to getting towards Goulburn. But that's how it started up. Now, the 2 people who won it were Alan Greenway from Goulburn, who was a Goulburn publican, and he won it with a loss of 1 point. Second in it was a local member, and Doug Noble, who also got a car for winning, being his navigator. They 2 got cars. The second car was a local, Ray Mansell, who had been a member of our club right from the start. And him and his navigator, they each won a very fancy radiogram. And the third one were also a person from the country, Jack Maslin. And Jack Maslin was the Jack Maslin of Jack Maslin Airways from Cootamundra. And his navigator, who also won the prize, was Carl Alders. Anyway, the organisers of the event, because it was put on by such a small car, worked out a new way to have road checks. And what they did was they found on the route various items that you had to put on a route card that were beside the road. Like there was one hall I can remember up near Mendura, said something or other Memorial Hall, and half the lettering forlorn off, and you had to put the letters that were missing. And the other thing, of course, we had mainly our 128 entries. Most of them were people who had a fairly big, wide motor racing experience. And one of them was Jack Murray. Now, I don't know whether you've heard of Jack Murray, Jelly Night Jack, and Jack that did all the supposed silly things done. But we were up there, Tamworth, and the question you had to fill in was, what is the, beside the roadway at a certain road junction? It was easy to find, but it just proved that you'd been to that area. Well, we just wrote it was a private graveyard with 6 headstones in it. But not Jack. Jack put in the name of the person was Stick, S-T-I-C-K. So Jack Murray puts down 6 boxes of sticks. And that was his answer for that question. But it did give us a lot of new members. It got us a lot of publicity and that. Now, I'm going to have a little break. It is now 25 to 4. If you want to have some more coffee or something, or just have a talk, please go ahead and just have a talk with someone.
Yes, Cam, as committee, we voted to do this for you. Congratulations on 70 years of continuous membership.
We wanted to check to see that everything had gone. They say 70 years, it's 71. 1.5. But I'm also going to say, somewhere over there is another one who joined. Right? Where are you? Oh, he's missing, isn't he? Yeah, the cap. Oh, there he is with the cap. Down there we have another member, John Waters, who was also at the first meeting. And that is 71.5 years ago.